Hey beautiful people, welcome back to Easy Sewing with Taic, your go-to place for stylish, easy to follow, beginner-friendly sewing tutorials that you'd absolutely love. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to make a stunning two-piece outfit, a half-circle skirt, and a Bubu Kimono crop top with a trendy hanging front patch pocket. It's simple, it's chic, and it's perfect for beginners. Now, if this is your first time here, my name is Taiwo, and I'm so glad to have you join us. And to my amazing returning subscribers, how are you all doing? Thank you so much for your continued support. You're truly the heart of this community. Now get comfortable and let's make something beautiful together. Starting off with the skirt, which is an half circle skirt. It's also referred to as a 180-degree skirt. Now, before we even go into how I folded my fabric in order to cut out the skirt, there are some little calculations that we need to do. To cut the skirt, a radius and skirt length is required. The skirt length I'm working with is 25 inches, all my allowances inclusive. Now to get the radius, I went ahead to divide the waist circumference, which is 37 by 3.142, a constant value. More details will be showing on your screen, and I got 11.77 inches. So to fold my fabric, I went ahead to measure the addition of the radius and the skirt length, which is 36.77. I went ahead to measure it and I folded it into two. It means that one part is 36.77 and the other part too is 36.77. After folding it that way, I went ahead to take the tip and I folded it into a triangle. So this was how I folded the black fabric that you can see on the table. I decided to explain with a piece of fabric so that you can understand what I am saying properly. Note that when you fold it this way, the two sides will not be equal. One part will be longer than the other, but be rest assured that the shorter part is the exact measurement that you need, since it is the addition of the radius and the skirt length. Now from the tip that way, I went ahead to measure out the radius, which is 11.77. Remember, do not approximate this, because if you do, you would have excess around the waist, and I do not want to add pleats to this. I already added my zipper allowance to the waist circumference, so do not approximate. Just mark out the exact measurement that you got after calculating. So I went ahead to measure it from one side to the other side, as you can see. To be double sure that what you are doing is right, if you go ahead and place your tape measure this way and measure out what you have and multiply it by 4, what you are supposed to have is supposed to cover for your waist measurement and zipper allowance. In my case, I have 35 inches for the waist measurement and 3 inches for the zipper allowance, which is 1.5, 1.5. Okay, so I went ahead to add half inch at the upper part that way. For the joining, I will need to join this skirt to a band. Moving on, from the end of the radius, I went ahead to mark out the skirt length, which is 25 inches. Now you can see the reason why we needed to add the skirt length to the radius before folding our fabric. I was so sure that I would not need to add any joining to this, so I went ahead to cut it out. Now this is what I have. This skirt has only one opening, and that is going to be where I'm going to attach my zip. So there will be no side joining because I'm not attaching a pocket. If you want to use to have a side joining because you need to attach a pocket, there's a way you go about it. Remember that we added only zipper allowance to this measurement. So if you want to know how to cut a half circle skirt that will have a pocket, the link to that tutorial will be showing on your screen right now. But this is what I want for this particular outfit, and I went ahead to cut out the lining. I cut it out exactly the same way I cut out the main fabric. The only difference is that the main fabric is 3 inches longer than the lining, and this is my preference. So if you want yours to be the same length, go ahead, and if you want it shorter, go ahead. The skirt is ready, and also I have the band. So the band height is 2 inches, but I went ahead to cut out 5 inches. When I fold it, I will have 2.5 inches on fold. I'll use half inch to join it to the body of the skirt, and I'll be left with 2 inches, while the length that I have there is my waist measurement plus zipper allowance. Moving on to the kimono high-low top. So I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into four. I have two for the front and two for the back. The length of the one for the front is shorter than the one for the back. We'll get more details soon. But what I have here is the combination of my shoulder measurement and sleeve length. You can follow the pictorial illustration showing on your screen to take this measurement. Also remember to add your folding allowance to whatever you get. It can be 1 or 2 inches. So here's the Asooke fabric that I'll be using for the pocket. This is the start point line. I went ahead to measure out the length that I'm using for the front is a crop kimono top. So I made use of my half length and I just added 1 inch for folding allowance. So you can either use your exact half length measurement or just add 1 inch to your half length measurement. For example, my half length is 17, so I made use of 17. I added just 1 inch for the folding allowance, and for the back it is 4 inches longer than the front. So for the back I add 22 inches. If you want yours longer, you can add up to 6 inches. Moving on to the neck width. The neck width that I worked with was 3.5, but I'd advise that you use 3 inches. Then for the neck depth, for the back neck depth, I worked with 1 inch. You can use either half inch or 1 inch for the back neck depth. Now at the edge that way, I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and I went ahead to connect it to the neck width this way. After which I went ahead to measure out the sleeve opening. Now determine how wide you want the sleeve opening to be. I wanted mine as wide as 18 inches. That is 18 divided by 2, 9. Then I added 1 inch for joining allowance. So on the waistline that way, I went ahead to input the waist measurement divided by 4, and I added 5 inches because that is how big I wanted mine to be. If you want yours to be bigger, you can add 6 inches, and if you want it smaller, you can add 4 inches. Remember, this is a maxi kimono top. So I went ahead to extend my lines that way. I connected it and I gave it a curve this way. It's that easy. Just follow through with what you can see me do on the screen. For the front neck depth, I made use of 7 inches. I want ahead to mark that 7 inches that way. And because this top has a collar that went around the neckline to the front, we need to create the space where we are going to insert that collar. So the first thing you want to do is determine how wide you want the collar to be. Remember that this is on fold. So if you want it to be 2 inches wide, it means you have to cut out 1.5 inch. And if you want it to be 1.5 inch wide, you have to cut out 1 inch. So I am marking out 1.5 inch because initially I wanted it to be 2 inches wide. Then I later changed my mind and I reduced it to 1 inch because I wanted the collar to be 1.5 inches wide. You know, we are still going to use half inch to join it to the collar. Hence the reason for this. So afterwards, you want to go ahead and connect it to the neck width. So this is where I reduced it to 1 inch and I connected it to the neck width this way. After which I went ahead to add half-inch joining allowance to the shoulder area that way. And finally, I went ahead to cut it. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop it in the comment section. Also, let me know what you think of this outfit. Would you be trying it out? Would you have done something differently? And if you are yet to subscribe, kindly click on the subscription button. We will be glad to have you join us. Also, please like this video so that it can be recommended to more amazing people like you. And I would really appreciate it if you can share this video as well. Thank you. The next thing we're about to cut out is the fabric that I'll be using for the collar. So we just want to get a rough estimate of what the collar length would be. Just go ahead and measure what you have there. You can see the way I place my tape measure, multiply it by 2 because we have 2 sides. Afterwards, go ahead and measure the back neckline around, add everything together. You can add 3 inches extra just to be sure that it's going to be in excess. Then you can cut it out. And this is what I have for mine. So I cut out that length, and the width that I have there is 4 inches. By the time I fold it into 2, I would have 2 inches, and by the time I join it to the fabric, I'll be left with 1.5 inches, which is the exact width of the collar that I want to work with. And that is all for the cutting process. It's time to head over to the sewing machine to sew this together. Here's the skirt band. I've gone ahead to fold it and I've sewn it down. So if you are working with another fabric that is not sheer, you can interface it, okay, to give it better structure. And if you are working with a fabric like this, you can also interface with a two knit, all right, of the same color to give it more structure or double your fabric. So I've gone ahead to notch where the zipper allowance is starting from. As you can see, that is where I pinned down. Then I also notched the center of the band for easy fixing. So here's the skirt. I've also notched the center of the skirt. I'll make sure that both the center of the skirt and the center of the band, they align, and then I'll proceed to join the skirt to the band using half an inch from one end to the other end. This is what I have after joining the skirt part to the band. The next thing to do now is to attach the lining, and here is how I did it. So I located the center point again, and I make sure it's aligned with the center of the lining this way, and I place it in such a way that I sandwich the band in between the lining and the make fabric, thus hiding all this seam allowance, okay? So just make sure that you sandwich your band in between the lining and the main fabric for a better and a neat finish. After which I went ahead to sew it using half an inch as well. And here is how it looks. You can see that all the seam line has been enclosed. Yes, this is what I want to achieve, and I prefer it this way. I've gone ahead to fold the bottom of the lining, and I'm also gone ahead to fold or hem the bottom of the main fabric. So for this center back joining, because the selvage area of my fabric happens to fall at that side, I will not be doing anything extra. I will just be stitching it down like I did for this other part. But if yours is a rough edge, it's not a selvage area, here's what you want to do to conceal those rough edges. Make sure that you fold it this way, and make sure that the band is not in the way. Just fold the band in, then sew on it like this, making sure that the right side faces the right side. By the time you turn it over, you would have enclosed all the rough edges, or you can also overlock, alright? But I don't need to do all of that since I have the selvage area over there. Then we head back to the sewing machine to attach the zipper. I went ahead to mark out the zip length, so I want it to occupy 8 inches. Afterwards, I went ahead to mark out the zipper allowance of 1.5 inch, and I sewed it from that 8 inches mark all the way to the hem of the skirt. So I've created the space where I'll be attaching the zipper. So here is how I fixed my zipper. I make sure that the right side of the zipper is facing the right side of the fabric, and I sewed as close as possible to the edge or to the teeth of the zip to achieve a neat finish. Once I'm done with one side, I would fold it. I'll close the zip rather and turn it this way. Then I would go ahead and sew the other side, and I'll show you what I have. And this is what it looks like when I was done fixing the zipper. The skirt is fully ready at this point. You can see how beautiful it looks. Remember that you can always interface your band to give it a better structure depending on the type of fabric you are working with. And that is it. We are done with the skirt. Moving on to the top, the first thing I did was to join both the front and the back at the shoulder this way. I went ahead to join it with half an inch. And here it what it looks like. I did this for the two sides. The next thing I did was to fold the hem of the sleeve opening this way using 1 inch, which was the allowance that I added. And here's what I have when I was done folding it. Now moving on to the collar. Now that we've joined it together at the shoulder, you want to go ahead and notch the back neckline, okay? Then take your measurement from the hem of the front, then take it all the way till you get to the center of the back neckline, and what I have is 24 and half. So if I'm to cut out the collar now, the one that I cut out on the table that I said was in excess, I can reduce it accurately to 24 and half, which is 49 inches in total. Remember that the measurement I took was to the um middle of the back neckline. Now that we've gotten the accurate length of the collar, the next important measurement is to measure from that 7 inches mark that we use for the front neck depth. Measure it all the way to the center of the back neckline. And what I have there is 12 and half. So from the folded part of the collar this way, you can see that that collar is folded into two. I went ahead to measure out 12 and half. That is going to be the neckline opening. This measurement is very important as you are sure that the collar opening would allow the head to fit in properly. Or for an adult, you can use between 12 to 14 inches, but to be very sure, just take the measurement, all right? So what I have left there, remember I have 4 inches, I divided it into two and I sewed on it that way from the 12 inches mark all the way to the end. So you can see the opening that I have there. That is the neckline opening. That is where you will be wearing this top from. So just go ahead and arrange the collar this way. Afterwards, I went ahead to stitch down the edges of the collar so that it can be easy when I'm about to fix it or attach it to the main top. Moving on to fixing it, just make sure that you locate the center of the back neckline like we have been doing all along, and locate the center of the collar as well. Make sure that it aligns. Then you start sewing it down using half an inch from that side all the way to the front hemline. So that is the 7 inches front neck depth. You can see that it aligns with where the collar opening ends, meaning that my measurement was accurate. So I would go ahead and sew it now and show you what I have. And here it was, it looks like when I was done attaching one side. Okay, from the back neck, from the center of the back neckline all the way to the hemline of one side. And this is what it looks like. So I'll go ahead and attach the other side as well. And this is what I have when I was done fixing the collar. So I'll make sure that I trim off the excess that is left of the collar. Then I'll make sure that I fold the hemline of the front and the back using 1 inch that I added while cutting. Moving on, I went ahead to join it at the side from the sleeve opening all the way to where the front hemline ends using 1 inch. So the excess that we have from the back extension, I make sure that I folded it this way so as to have a neat finish. All right, you don't want to leave that edge hanging that way. And here is what I have. The top is coming along nicely. The last thing to do is to attach the pocket. So here's the Asooke pocket. I've gone ahead to sew it. I used a plain Asooke fabric for the back, and this is what I have. So the dimension is 9.5 by 6.5, okay, because that's the width of the Asooke fabric anyway. And to fix it, I came out by 1 inch from the side of the collar. That is 2.5 inches from the center of the top. Remember that this one part of the collar is 1.5 inches wide. So I came out by 1 inch from the side of the collar. Okay, just follow through with what you can see on the screen. So that is where I'll be placing my pocket. And I just placed 4 inches on the fabric. The remaining 5.5 inches is left hanging. So you can choose to increase it or reduce it. So this is just how I attached it. Just stitch it down. Use a matching thread, please. And voila, here's the final result. The top is ready and it's super gorgeous. It's so beautiful. Wouldn't you agree? Let me know in the comment section below. And that's a wrap for today's tutorial. I hope you gained some valuable insight and enjoyed the process. I'd love to see how your project turns out, so be sure to share them with me on social media. You can find me as Easy Sewing with Taic on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. See you in the next tutorial. Until then, take care and happy sewing. Bye.